Hello everyone, we're Group 7. I'm Ariel, and my group mates Aida, Aisha, and I are going to be talking about the prevalence of unintentional injuries, motor vehicle accidents among 15 to 24-year-olds in the United States from 1975 to current day. I'm going to be discussing the extent of the problem, some clinical conditions, the agent of disease, and the mode of transmission, as well as the gaps in knowledge. So let's get into the extent or prevalence of the problem. Every year, there are around 6 million police-reported motor vehicle accidents that occur in the United States. If we take a look at this chart on the left from the CDC, we can see that unintentional motor vehicle traffic incidents are the leading cause of death for young drivers aged 15 to 24. It also shows to be the second leading cause of death for 25 to 65 and older adults, which is highly significant, as it does rank third for the U.S. as a whole. In 2019, it was estimated that 38,800 people lost their lives from being in a car accident, while roughly 4.4 million people were injured seriously enough to require medical attention from crashes. Continuing on with the extent of the problem, we can discuss the mortality rate, which, as we learned in EPI, is defined as the number of people who die from a particular problem or disease. In this case, we are talking about motor vehicle accidents. In 2018, the fatality rate was 11.17 per 100,000 resident population and 1.13 per 100 million VMT. Economically, car accidents are a huge burden on society with an estimated economic cost of $242 billion in 2010, the most recent year for which cost data is available. These costs include lost productivity, workplace losses, legal and court expenses, medical costs, insurance administration costs, property damage costs, congestion costs, and emergency medical services. Now, if we look to the table on the right provided by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, we can see both the economic and comprehensive costs in billions for all types of crashes, individually and altogether. However, in much more serious cases of death or injury, such costs fail to capture the intangible value of lost quality of life. So because this is a non-communicable disease, there is no agent or transmission. However, there are a couple types of clinical conditions to keep in mind when speaking about motor vehicle accidents. The first being commonly experienced symptoms following the accidents. Symptoms may appear up to several days later and can include headaches, neck pain, nausea, dizziness, reduced feeling or function loss in extremities. Other symptoms that are not listed can include abdominal pain, swelling, fainting, seizures, anxiety, and PTSD. These symptoms can also be indicators for more serious injuries one can suffer. Types of injuries can include minor scrapes and bruises, injuries to the head, brain, face, neck, collarbone and ribs, back and spinal cord, as well as internal injuries and lower extremity injuries. Treatment and recovery after injuries also differs depending on the body part and severity.
Hello everyone, my name is Aida Palamo and I will be going over mechanisms to control the problem of unintentional injuries in relation to motor vehicle accidents. A way to approach this public health issue is by utilizing the levels of prevention. The first level I will be going over is primary prevention. As we learn in epidemiology, primary prevention acts like a game plan for health professionals in the sense that you intervene before the health effects occur. In this scenario, we can apply primary prevention to the high rates of motor vehicle accidents in the United States. So with all that being said, you might ask, what are some examples of primary prevention? Well, to name a few, there is implementing a seatbelt law for all states, since New Hampshire is the only state to not require seatbelt use. Along with implementation, it would be beneficial to improve reinforcement laws. And then another example is a DUI prevention program. There are still high amounts of accidents being caused by people driving under the influence of alcohol, cannabis, or other drugs. Last but not least are programs dedicated to reduce the incidence of distracted driving, such as texting, calling, eating, and so forth. Continuing our slide on mechanisms to control, our next EPI term we have is secondary prevention, and a little refresher on what that means is that it is when screening is used to identify diseases in the earliest stages, before the worst possible health outcome occurs. We can apply this level of prevention by reducing the impact of the injury of a motor vehicle accident. Some examples on how to achieve this goal are by checking your vehicle's airbags and brakes to see if they are functioning properly. Also, this can be an opportunity to call your dealer or do some research on your car to see if there are any recalls on any parts of your vehicle as a precaution. As mentioned earlier, seatbelts are essential because they help reduce crash-related injuries by half. So check yourself and those in the vehicle to see if they are buckled in properly. It's a step that is often overlooked but is extremely important, and then we have the help of technology. Motor vehicle accidents are unpredictable sometimes. You can do everything right, but then someone else can still crash into you. So the utilization of car safety controls such as automatic braking, blind spot alerts, shatter-resistant glass, and so much more have been created to protect against the unpredictable. Lastly, we have tertiary prevention. As we learned in EPI, tertiary prevention is used to slow or stop the progression of a disease. In this case, we're examining crash victims, and we can apply this level of prevention by prioritizing post-crash care, which would include how the patient received pre-hospital care. And an example of this would be how did the paramedics assess the injuries? Next, we have hospital setting. This can include, does the hospital have the tools and resources to deal with a trauma patient? And the last step would be rehabilitation. This can include post-operation care or physical therapy if they need it. To the left of this slide, I have provided an infographic from the Community Preventative Services Task Force, and these are recommendations used to improve tribal motor vehicle safety. And this helps to visualize the levels of prevention that I summarized earlier better. And the demographic that it includes are American Indians and Alaska Natives, since they are a population who is also affected by motor vehicle accidents in the United States. This segues us into host factors. Not to say that those tribes are not significant, but the current population that has the highest rates of motor vehicle accidents are teenagers overall. So our last epiterm I will go over are risk factors. This is a variable that makes it more likely that something undesirable will happen. Examples of risk factors are gender. Research show that men have higher mortality rates, but females are more likely to be injured or killed in an accident of equal severity. The greatest risk factor is age. It is highest among teens. To the left, this infographic, it further states more risk factors such as seatbelt use, speeding, texting, and drinking and driving. All of those risk factors are variables in being the leading cause of death for those ages of 15 through 19 years old in the United States. And this infographic is from idrivesafely.com.
Hello everyone, it's Aisha and I'm going to be talking to you about the environmental factors as well as the temporal variation for motor vehicle accidents. So when it comes to factors, we have both environmental as well as social factors. For environmental, one of the big things is the geography of where the population lives. A lot of this can determine, stuff such as the conditions of the road. So in a place that could be more, maybe less developed or more rural, there can be stuff such as missing road signs or maybe poorly painted lines, which can lead to more motor vehicle accidents. Another environmental factor that plays a large role would be weather. So in places like, let's say here in California, where there isn't as many rainy days versus in Washington where there's more rainy days, there can be more driving impairment due to the weather over there, and this can lead to more motor vehicle accidents. Now, for social factors, this plays a large role with the population of adolescents and young adults that we're focusing on, especially stuff such as the use of drugs and alcohol, which is very big among this population. We know that this can cause impairment. A lot of times during this age, adolescents and young adults start experimenting with alcohol and drugs, and they don't measure the consequences that they can face when they decide to get behind the wheel after having a couple drinks. This also leads to peer influence. So a lot of adolescents and young adults, they listen to each other, and this can increase risky behavior. So this can cause them to speed, this can cause them to not follow road signs, maybe not stop at the stop sign, which can lead to more accidents. Distracted driving is also a big part of motor vehicle accidents. So texting, being on the phone can cause the driver to be distracted, as well as things such as eating, putting on makeup. All these little things causes the driver to look off from the road for seconds, and in just those couple of seconds, an accident can occur. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about the temporal variation of motor vehicle accidents. So on this slide, there is a graph as well as a chart. They are basically the same. It's just, the chart gives each set of numbers for each point on the graph. So this is showing the teenage motor vehicle crash deaths by gender from basically 1975 to 2018. But I cropped the chart from 2000 to 2018, which is the time that we're focusing on. So by looking at the data, it's clear that the numbers have decreased. In 2000, the total number of motor vehicle deaths among teenagers was 5,685, and in 2018, that number dropped down to 2,476. Now, this is important because it's showing that this intervention and prevention that is being put into this area is really helping reduce the numbers, but the numbers are still there. So as you see, just specifically between male and female, male are more at risk of getting into motor vehicle accidents than females are. There has been a decrease as well, but again, there's more research and more can be done in order to decrease these numbers, because this is specifically just the teenage population that is being affected. And a lot of teenagers and young adults are still losing their lives to motor vehicle accidents, and a lot of times, a lot of this could be prevented with just simple changes that can occur when they decide to get behind the wheel.
It's Ariel again, and now we'll be moving on to gaps in knowledge for our target population. So as far as teens and young adults go, a lot of them are inexperienced and don't want to believe when people say that they can't multitask. They either want to prove them wrong or they think they are invincible. They also tend to refuse to put their phone on driving mode, don't know how to, or don't even know it's an option. People in this age group also make exceptions for just this once, or because it's their mom texting them. As far as gaps in knowledge that exist for researchers and public health officials go, these can be due to undocumented cases or hit and runs, as well as being unsure how to target people's long-term distracted driving behaviors.
So it's Aisha, and now I'm going to be talking about areas for further research. So first of all, more research should be done on specific risk factors, not just risk factors in general, but trying to pinpoint which factors are causing the most risk for motor vehicle accidents versus those that possibly aren't causing such a high risk for motor vehicle accidents, and making sure to target those that are first. Also, research should be done on individual state road conditions, so allowing each state to examine the conditions of their own roads and trying to find those who need the most financial help so that they can do what they can to fix up the roads, and in turn this should reduce the number of accidents due to this environmental factor and should help improve the conditions in general. Another area is for post-accident care for victims, not only those who possibly got a health impairment that now is long lasting and they need more medical treatment, but also for those family members who maybe lost an adolescent or a young adult due to a motor vehicle accident. And then more research should also be done on interventions for teenagers before they even reach the driving age limit. So this should be done at school or offering classes outside of school before they even decide to take a driver's ed class. That way, once they do reach that age limit, they already have at least a bit more knowledge on the factors that they can face or what they can go through once they start driving.
Before we conclude our presentation, I would like to state why our group deserves the $100 million that Mark Zuckerberg is offering towards this public health effort. It is the third leading cause of death in the United States, and it would help increase the overall life expectancy in the U.S. It's a great investment because as of 2013, over 30,000 people were killed. $44 billion was spent in medical and loss of work costs, and last but not least, motor vehicle accidents causes an immeasurable burden on the victim's family and friends. Overall, for many, motor vehicle accidents are part of people's everyday mode of transportation. It is important to reduce the dangers that they can pose to the public. Thank you. This concludes our presentation, and we appreciate you tuning in on Ariel, Aisha, and myself, Ida's group presentation.